Hey, what's up, everybody? So day 4 Packers training camp just ended, so I want to go over all the different updates from today's practice. If you guys are new here, I put out Packers content nearly every day, talking about news, updates, all that kind of stuff. So if you don't want to miss any Packers news, feel free to subscribe and turn on the post notifications down below. Now, first off here, we have a little bit of an update from Matt LaFleur's press conference. This is shared by Rob Demovsky on X, and he says, Matt LaFleur said he's talked to Nate Hobbs on dialing back some of his aggressiveness. Hobbs has hit a few guys in early practices. Quote, I don't think it's malicious, said Matt LaFleur, who added that one of the things that attracted Green Bay to Hobbs was, quote, how he competes, end of quote. And so, on the one hand, I totally understand Matt LaFleur not wanting Hobbs to be as aggressive. He talked about, running through guys on catches and how, of course, they're not in pads. They don't want guys getting injured. So, if you're the head coach, you're probably keeping an eye on that. I did see some comments here about people saying, the Packers are soft, things like this. And I think that there has to be some kind of balance between guys going, full-fledged in practice where there's a risk of potential injuries, where when you're in training camp, one of the worst things that can happen is one of your best players getting unnecessarily injured. And so while you want to see that physicality comes the season, I understand Matt LaFleur wanting it to be dialed back a little bit because you don't want to have any unnecessary injuries. Then here from Rob Demovsky, LaFleur said he will have some live tackling periods in camp when the pads go on this week. Typically, it's been the backups, but when asked if starters might hit live, LaFleur said, depends on how salty I am that day. And so once again, along the same lines, it seems like way back in the day in the NFL, there weren't as many restrictions on how much these teams could hit and things like that. And I honestly wonder at times if because guys are hitting so much in practice, maybe they're more used to it. So then when it comes to the regular season games, maybe there's less injuries because their bodies are more used to it. On the other hand, getting hit way more, it probably isn't good for the body. And so I feel like there has to be a balance here where I think sometimes you get to week 1, and because guys have not been tackling as much in recent years in most practices or a lot of practices as they would in the game, I feel like you see a lot more missed tackles just because they haven't been going full-fledged during regular practices. So once again, I feel like there has to be that balance because you don't want them to never tackle before the season because then you go in completely not ready. But on the other hand, you don't want to have a serious injury. So I feel like as a coach, you have to balance that. And at the end of the day, I think when it comes to week 1, you just got to have your guys ready to play and ready to do live hitting, live tackling, and I feel like you need to do some of that before, the season comes around. Then here's some injury updates from Rob Demovsky. Full attendance / injury report. Did not participate. We have Quay Walker, Christian Watson, Colin Oliver, John Williams, and Elton Jenkins. So a lot of the same guys who missed the first 3 practices. And then returned Amar Johnson, Aaron Banks, and Savion Williams. Looks like Savion Williams was just doing some light individual work. Doesn't have a helmet anymore. Aaron Banks not doing team either. So at least it looks like Aaron Banks and Savion Williams are progressing with their injuries, with Savion having the concussion and Aaron Banks the back issue a couple days ago. And so they weren't fully back in the team periods, but they were doing individual work. So it looks like things are moving there in the right direction. Those injuries don't seem to be super serious, which is obviously great news. Now, here are the starters today from Andy Herman, who says, starters in team. Defensively, we have Gary, Wyatt, Clark, and Lucas Van Ness on the D-line, which has been the pretty much the same unit most of the time here. Then at linebacker with Quay Walker still out, you got Isaiah Simmons, McDuffie, and Cooper as well. Then at corner with 3 linebackers, not nickel here, we have Hobbs and Nixon on the outside, and then Williams and McKinney at safety, and that's been pretty much the same group the first few days of training camp. Then on offense, Love, Jacobs, Golden, and Dobbs. And here we have Golden starting with Dobbs, which I feel like I'm pretty sure this is the first time Golden has been a starter in teams, which to be a rookie and already getting some snaps here, I think that shows the Packers having some trust in Golden, and maybe it's just Matt LaFleur giving different guys opportunities to start out. And so maybe it's not a massive deal. But I think come week 1, Golden's going to be a key piece of this Packers offense because he's so talented and you drafted him in the first round. Then you have Musgrave and Kraft at tight end. Offensive line, Rasheed Walker left tackle, Morgan left guard, Ryan center, Monk right guard, and then Zach Tom right tackle. With Aaron Banks out, Jordan Morgan takes over at left guard. Elton Jenkins still out, so Ryan is at center. And the longer that Elton Jenkins is out with that back injury, the more that we're going to see, Ryan at center, Monk at center, and it's hard to know how long Jenkins is going to be out with that back injury. And as Gutekunst said, it sounds like when his back injury is healed, he's going to be practicing. It seems like the contract situation is not going to be a problem. We'll keep an eye on that to see if anything there changes. But at least it's good that if Jenkins were to miss any time during the season, you have Ryan getting some more snaps at center, and Monk also at times in the past has gotten some snaps there as well. Then here we have from Andy Herman. This happened near the end of practice, but I wanted to start off talking about Tucker Kraft. But it says here, one's up next, same scenario. Love tries to hit Dobbs in the back of the end zone, fading away, goes out of the end zone and overthrown, 4 seconds left. And here's where we have Love and Kraft connecting. Defense brings a ton of pressure. Love fades back, finds Kraft, who boxes out Williams for an easy touchdown. And I think for Tucker Kraft, he's now entering his third season. And we really saw him break through in a big way last year. He was the second Packers leading receiver with about 700 receiving yards. And Kraft just has that ability after the catch to make guys miss. He's tough, he's physical. And so often last year, it was just the Packers getting Kraft the ball, just coming across on, short passes and basically just getting the ball in his hands pretty quickly, and then him carrying people down the field with him. He's, just a monster after the catch. And I think we're going to see another step with Kraft this year where maybe he can be one of the most effective Packers pass catchers, which he pretty much was last year, just when it comes to statistically looking at his receiving yards. And that's a connection where, you look at all the different receivers the Packers have here with Golden, Love building that chemistry with Kraft here. Now, just, having more and more experience with Jordan Love. I think having Golden is going to open things up more for the Packers just with his speed. And with Christian Watson out, it's nice to have that speed there. And then with, defenses having to focus on Jaden Reed's speed, on Matthew Golden's speed, it's going to open things up a lot for Tucker Kraft. And so it's going to be a fun season to watch to sort of see the next step that Kraft can take. Then we have for Mike Spofford, Packers RB Josh Jacobs makes tough cuts look easy. Man, is he fun to watch. And then Wes Hodquist says, Bo Melton is getting outside CB reps with ones. So Bo Melton continuing to play at corner here, getting some reps with the ones, which is cool to see. And then here we have from Aaron Nagler, who says, Kenny Clark made Jacob Monk look silly on a toss to Jacobs on a right side. Kenny completely blew up the play. And I think one thing that hopefully we see this year that was different last year, Kenny Clark just was not very productive. And I think a lot of that came down to the injury he suffered early on in the season to his toe. And he just wasn't the same player last year, was not very productive. And so it's good to see him making some of those plays that we got used to seeing for a long time here in Green Bay. And hopefully that will continue. And then here as well, we have Nazir Stackhouse just blew up 2 running plays in a row with the threes, also from Aaron Nagler there. And so Nazir Stackhouse was an undrafted free agent from Georgia, 6'4", 327, so a really massive guy. And you never know when it comes to some undrafted players. Some guys end up breaking through and making it on the roster, and I think TJ Slayton being gone, he was a massive run defender. He was really, really good last year. He left in free agency. And so I think Stackhouse has a chance to make this roster, and we'll see if he keeps making plays. Then from Andy Herman, who says, Carrington Valentine all over an outside screen. Stackhouse and Brinson clog up on a run play by White that went nowhere. Rashawn Gary comes screaming over from defensive end to force a fumble along the sidelines on Jaden Reed. It fumbled out of bounds, but man, Gary was moving. And then we also have Brinson there, Warren Brinson, 6th-round pick, defensive lineman, making a play. And I just think looking at this defensive line, they were really good last year against the run. One of the better units in the NFL. And I do wonder with TJ Slayton gone how that's going to impact things. But, the Packers just need guys. Some of these guys they drafted 4th, 5th, 6th round on the defensive line. Also, Stackhouse undrafted. They need some of those guys to be able to come through and make plays consistently. So good to see some of that happening. Then from Andy Herman, Love gets pressured a bit and he throws a pass over the middle right in the waiting arms of Tyron Hopper. This defense has done a great job of confusing the offense through 4 days. So not great for Jordan Love there. I've talked about, training camp interceptions. It's easy to make a big deal about it, but guys are testing things out, trying things out, and so I'm not super concerned. And I think Tyron Hopper, he's a guy that we didn't really get to see a ton last year, but I think he has a chance to, get some more playing time this season. And then from Andy Herman, McDuffie and McKinney with blanket coverage on Musgrave up the seam. Love fiery, but it's high and goes through the end zone. Cooper had another one of those plays where he shoots through the line at warp speed on a Jacobs toss. This defense is hungry and tenacious. I love what I'm seeing so far. No pads, caveat, of course. And Edgerrin Cooper, he's so good against the run last year. He had so many tackles for loss on pretty limited snap count. I think he played something like 40 to 50% of snaps. And so I assume that's going to be much, much higher this year. It should be. If it's not, I think the Packers defense has a problem there. But he should be on the field, nearly every single defensive play just because of what he brings you physically, against the run, just in all aspects of the game. And it's good to hear the defense is flying around. They were a solid unit last year, and it seems like they're giving the offense some issues. Then from Ryan Wood, good chemistry between Jordan Love and Jaden Reed, pulling the trigger on extension down left sideline. Reed was open against Javon Bullard, but Love just left the throw a touch long. Reed got 1 foot in bounds, not 2. Then here from Andy Herman, beautiful run play off right tackle in red zone for an 11-yard touchdown run by Emmanuel Wilson, running behind the monster right side of Glover and Telford. Next play, it's stuffed inside, and when Wilson tries to bounce it, Cox forces a clear hold on Ben Sims. So there's that running back 2 battle, I'd say, going right now between Marshawn Lloyd, Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks, and I think that Wilson's a very solid running back. He was really good last year, and it'll be fun to watch to see sort of who pushes that number 2 spot. I think it'll be Marshawn Lloyd, but we'll keep an eye on that. Then Andy Herman, Golden has such unreal hands. The ball just sticks to them. Slant, and Willis fires it in, and Golden snaps it for 7. Brenton Cox forces his second hold of the red zone series with the 2s. And so first off there, Brenton Cox, he was really good down the stretch last year. One of the more productive Packers pass rushers. And part of me wondered this offseason with the Packers not really investing a ton in the edge rusher room, at least high draft picks or high top-tier free agents. I do wonder if part of it has to do with the Packers' trust in what Brenton Cox was able to bring last year. And it looks like he's causing some issues here for the offense. And then also Golden, it's great to hear a Packers receiver having unreal hands, which is something Brian Gutekunst mentioned after Matthew Golden got drafted in this post-draft press conference, because we all know the Packers struggled a ton last year with those drop issues, and it looks like Golden is a guy that Jordan Love is going to be able to rely on more, so that should help this offense a ton. Then here we have from Aaron Nagler, who says, LVN just beat Walker cleanly to flush Love out of the pocket. Signs of life. If Lucas Van Ness can just get anywhere close to looking like a first-round caliber prospect, this defense will be very, very good, because they were already really good last year with Lucas Van Ness, not necessarily playing as a first-round, number 13th overall pick. So if that happens, this defense is going to be scary. Then from Ryan Wood, Matthew Golden's second touchdown in this period. Good protection. Jordan Love holds it for a beat. Finds Golden open on a crosser and back end zone, pulling away from Carrington Valentine for short score. So it already seems that on day 4, we're only, very early on here in training camp, and Matthew Golden is consistently making plays, which is what you want to see from a first rounder. It's good that he's already seemingly coming through this early on as a rookie. Then from Andy Herman, Kamal Haddon with a nice breakup on a red zone throw to Dobbs. If I had to put money on it today, I'm taking Haddon as CB4 behind Hobbs, Nixon, and Valentine, not counting Bullard. So interesting there for the cornerback room. And the Packers have so many corners. I think they're at about 13 now, 12 or 13, with the new signing yesterday of the new guy, Garnett Hollis Jr. So we'll keep an eye on the corner battle. Then from Andy Herman, Elgersma to Hicks for a touchdown and an out route off play action. James Esther was moving on a pressure of Elgersma. Not a name most know, but he's made a lot of growth from early last year. And then finishing it off here, Rob Domofsky says, practice number 4 ends with a strong red zone showing for the offense, including Love with an under pressure TD to Kraft against tight coverage, which is the one I talked about earlier. Sean Clifford with 2 great throws, touchdown and 2-point play, both to Sam Brown Jr., hottest, 90 degrees. Practice so far goes 1 hour, 51 minutes. Then a correction here from Rob Domofsky, who says, correction, the Clifford to Brown plays were actually a completion short of the goal line and then a touchdown. And that's one I think that I'm more curious about for next season when Malik Willis could be gone as the backup. It may be a competition between Sean Clifford and Elgersma, who came in from Canada. So this preseason, that may be one to watch, just thinking about next season who the backup could potentially be if Malik Willis does not stay here. But those are all the updates for today. If you want more Packers news, feel free to subscribe down below. You can follow me on Twitter at LukeBeller3, and I'll see you guys next time.